The ventilation shaft echoed with a sound nobody expected to hear in deep space. It was a human voice, light and clear, singing words in a language most species had never heard. Lily Strand hung upside down in the narrow passage, her tool belt jangling as she worked on the damaged resonance dampener. Her grandmother always said that singing made hard work easier, and right now Lily needed all the help she could get. The mining station outpost Tanis orbited a massive gas giant called Helios 7. 200 workers lived here, representing dozens of species from across the Galactic Cooperative. They drilled for rare minerals, processed fuel, and tried not to go crazy from the isolation. Most kept to themselves. Most didn't sing while they worked. Lily had arrived 3 weeks ago. The station's acoustic systems were failing, causing vibrations that made everyone nervous. She was supposed to fix them and leave, but the job was taking longer than expected. Not that she minded. There was something peaceful about working alone in the empty sections of the station, with only her voice for company. She finished tightening a bolt and started another song, this one older than space travel itself. Her grandmother had taught it to her when she was 5 years old. The melody bounced off the metal walls, creating harmonics that made the whole shaft hum softly. Lily didn't notice the massive shape moving in the cargo bay below. Fracas had lived on Outpost Tanis for 11 years. Most workers only knew him as the silent creature who inspected the structural supports and made sure the station didn't fall apart. He was 40 feet long from snout to tail, with scales that looked like dark crystal. His people, the Drakkar, had once filled the galaxy with their songs. Now there was only him. He didn't talk to anyone. What was the point? The Drakkar had communicated through harmonics, through songs that could shape metal and stone. Without his people, without their voices joining his, speaking felt empty and wrong. So he worked in silence, checking welds and measuring stress points, waiting for nothing in particular. But today, something pulled him toward the deep cargo bay, a sound he hadn't heard in 80 years. Not Drakkar, but close enough to make his chest ache. He moved carefully through the shadows, his claws silent on the metal floor. Above him, suspended in the ventilation shaft, a tiny human sang. Vrakas froze. He had heard humans before. They were loud and emotional, always laughing or arguing. But this was different. This human understood something about sound that most species never learned. The song had structure. It had purpose. Each note rang at specific frequencies, and together they created patterns that reminded Vrakas of home. His vocal chambers, dormant for decades, began to vibrate. It hurt, everything about it hurt. But underneath the pain was something he thought had died with his people. Hope. Lily pulled herself out of the ventilation shaft and dropped lightly to the cargo bay floor. She wiped grease from her hands and checked her portable scanner. The readings looked better. The new dampener was working. She hummed quietly, pleased with herself. That's when she felt it. A presence. Something large and alive, watching from the darkness between the cargo containers. She should have been scared. Any sensible person would be scared. But Lily's grandmother had taught her that fear and respect were different things. She turned slowly, keeping her movements calm. The creature that emerged from the shadows was the biggest living thing she had ever seen. His scales caught the dim light, throwing back reflections of deep blue and purple. His eyes were ancient and sad. She recognized him from the station briefings. Vrakas. The last Drakkar. Everyone said to leave him alone. Everyone said he was dangerous when disturbed. But Lily saw something else in those ancient eyes. She saw loneliness so deep it had its own gravity. "Hello," she said softly. "I didn't mean to bother you." Vrakas said nothing. His throat worked like he wanted to speak, but no sound came out except a low rumble that rattled the cargo containers. Lily tilted her head. "The walls really carry sound well down here, don't they? I bet this whole bay could work like a concert hall with the right acoustics." The dragon remained still. Only his eyes moved, following her as she walked closer. She wasn't stupid. She stopped at a respectful distance. But she didn't run and she didn't look away. My grandmother used to say that music is just organized air. She said every building, every room, every space has its own song if you know how to listen. Frakas's scales rippled. Deep in his chest, something stirred. The human was right. The Drakkar had known this truth for millennia. Their cities had been instruments. Their ships had been symphonies. Every structure they built was designed to resonate, to sing, to remember. He tried to respond. His vocal chambers seized with pain. The sound that came out was broken and harsh, like metal grinding against stone. Lily didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled. Out of practice? If dragons could laugh, Brachus might have. Instead, he just lowered his massive head slightly. An acknowledgement. I come down here most evenings, Lily said. The acoustics are too good to waste. If you want to listen, you're welcome to stay. She didn't wait for an answer. She simply sat down on a cargo container, pulled out her grandmother's old journal, and began to sing again. This time she chose a different song, one with deeper notes that made the whole bay resonate. Brachus remained in the shadows. But he didn't leave. For the first time in 80 years, he listened to music that wasn't a memory. The human's voice was small compared to what his people had produced, but it carried something that Drakkar had valued above all else: intention, emotion, life. When she finished, Lily looked up to find the dragon watching her intently. Same time tomorrow? She asked. Brachus said nothing. But deep in his chest, in vocal chambers that had been silent for most of a century, something began to wake. After she left, he stayed in the cargo bay for a long time. The metal wall still vibrated with echoes of her song. He pressed one clawed hand against the floor and felt the resonance travel through the structure. The station remembered. Metal held memory. The Drakkar had always known this. They had built their legacy into every structure they touched, waiting for someone to hear it. Maybe, Brachus thought. Maybe he wasn't the end of everything after all. Above him, the station's lights flickered slightly. Other workers would notice the strange vibrations and wonder what was happening in the deep cargo bay. But none of them would understand what it meant when a dragon, silent for 80 years, began to remember how to sing. Brachus hadn't slept. Dragons didn't need much sleep anyway, but tonight his mind refused to rest. He sat in his quarters, a converted cargo hold that most species would consider a warehouse. To him, it was just large enough. Hollow images floated in the air around him, projections he hadn't looked at in years. His mother, her scales bright with health, singing over a newly built tower. His father, demonstrating harmonic engineering to a class of young Drakkar. His siblings, all 7 of them, their voices blending in the evening songs that kept their city's atmosphere clean and fresh. All gone, all dust and radiation and silence. He tried to hum, just a single note. His throat seized immediately. The sound that emerged was broken and painful, like stones scraping together. He stopped, breathing hard. 80 years of silence had done this. His vocal chambers had atrophied. The biological instruments that once shaped matter itself were now barely functional. Brachus looked at his claws. These hands had built stations that housed millions. These hands had woven harmonic fields that turned asteroids into gardens. Now they just checked for metal fatigue and signed off on maintenance reports. He was the end of everything his people had been, a museum piece that happened to still breathe. The thought settled over him like ice. 3 decks above, Lily woke to her alarm and immediately reached for her grandmother's journal. She flipped through the pages, past songs in Norwegian and English and Korean. Her grandmother had collected them all, preserving melodies that might otherwise have been lost during Earth's resource wars. Lily understood what it meant to be a keeper of vanishing things. She got dressed and headed to the station's common area for breakfast. The place was busy with the morning shift change. A group of Talreen workers clustered around the newsfeed, their antennae twitching as they discussed something. Lily grabbed a food packet and sat at an empty table. "Excuse me." A young technician, barely 20, slid into the seat across from her. "You're the acoustic engineer, right?" "That's me," Lily said. "Did you hear about the vibrations last night?" In the deep cargo bay. The technician's eyes were wide with curiosity. "My instruments picked up some weird resonance patterns. Nothing dangerous, just unusual." Lily kept her expression neutral. "Probably just the new dampeners settling in. I'll check them today." The technician nodded but didn't leave. "Is it true you saw the Drakkar down there?" "Brachus, yeah, I saw him. And you're okay. Everyone says to stay away from him. My supervisor said he's unpredictable." Lily took a bite of her food, chewing slowly. "He seemed fine to me. Quiet. Well, yeah, he never talks. That's what makes people nervous." The technician leaned forward. "My roommate works in structural and she says Brachus used to hum sometimes years ago. But then he stopped completely. Now he's just this huge silent thing moving through the station. It's creepy." Maybe he stopped because everyone keeps calling him creepy, Lily said flatly. The technician blinked, taken aback. I didn't mean it like that. Sure. Lily stood up, collecting her tray. I've got work to do. She headed straight for the station's archive terminal. If people were going to gossip, she might as well get the real story. She typed in her access code and searched for information on the Drakkar. The files were extensive. The Drakkar had been members of the Galactic Cooperative for over 3,000 years. They were master builders and engineers, but more than that, they were philosophers. They believed that structure and song were the same thing, that the universe itself was a kind of music. Lily scrolled through images of their cities. Every building was designed to resonate at specific frequencies. The architecture wasn't just beautiful, it was functional. The singing spires of Drakkar Prime had generated breathable atmosphere through harmonic resonance alone. No machines, no power sources, just the right frequencies at the right amplitudes, sustained by the voices of thousands of Drakkar singing together. Then she reached the files about the extinction. A cosmic radiation storm, unexpected and massive, had swept through the Drakkar home cluster. It killed everything biological, plants, animals, people. The few Drakkar who were off-world at the time survived, but they were scattered across the galaxy. Over the next few decades, they died one by one. Disease, accidents, or simply giving up. Vrakas was the last. He had been young when it happened, barely an adult. For 80 years he had lived alone, the only living being who remembered how his people spoke. Lily closed the files and sat back. Her chest felt tight. She thought about her grandmother, teaching her songs in a tiny apartment during the resource wars. She remembered asking why it mattered, why they couldn't just record everything digitally. Her grandmother had smiled sadly. Recordings preserve sound. Singing preserves soul. When you sing a song someone taught you, they live in your voice. That's how we survive the things that should destroy us. That evening, Lily returned to the deep cargo bay. She brought her portable resonance scanner and her grandmother's journal. She didn't know if Vrakas would show up again, but she hoped he would. She started by singing a simple melody, watching the scanner's readout. The bay's metal walls vibrated in response, creating harmonics, but there was something else in the readings. Faint patterns that didn't match her voice. She stopped singing and examined the scanner more closely. The patterns were old, embedded deep in the metal structure. She adjusted the sensitivity and gasped. The walls remembered. Vrakas had hummed here years ago. His voice had been so powerful that it left permanent impressions in the station's framework. The metal still carried echoes of Drakkar songs. The walls remember your voice, Lily turned. Vrakas stood at the entrance to the bay. He was even more massive than she remembered, but somehow less frightening in the better light. She held up her scanner. Look at this. You left recordings in the metal itself. Your songs are still here. Vrakas moved closer, his eyes fixed on the scanner's display. He saw the patterns, the frequencies, the proof that his people's gift hadn't completely vanished. His whole body trembled. He tried to speak. His throat worked, producing only a broken rumble. Lily didn't look away. Then we'll start small. Hum with me. She took a breath and produced a single low note. Simple, pure, easy to match. Vrakas stared at her. This tiny human wanted him to sing after 80 years of silence. After everything. The idea was absurd, but she waited. Patient. Her note hung in the air, making the whole bay resonate. Vrakas's vocal chambers ached. He shouldn't try. It would hurt. It would fail. It would prove that he really was just a relic, broken beyond repair. He tried anyway. The sound that emerged was rough and painful, barely recognizable as music. But it was there. A note, his note. For the first time in 80 years, Vrakas created intentional sound. The bay's walls responded immediately. The ancient patterns in the metal woke, harmonizing with his voice. For just a moment, the room rang with the ghost of Drakkar architecture. Then Vrakas stopped, overwhelmed. His legs shook. His chest heaved. Lily's face glowed with triumph. You did it. That was real. That was music. Vrakas wanted to tell her it was nothing, just a broken fragment of what his people could do. But he couldn't speak. And maybe that was okay. Maybe the note itself was enough for now. Outside the bay, station workers paused in their tasks. They felt the vibration through the floor, through the walls, strange and powerful and unlike anything the station had produced before. In her office, Commander Grix frowned at her monitors. The resonance readings from the cargo bay were off the charts. Whatever was happening down there, it was getting stronger. She made a note to investigate. But not tonight. Tonight, she had other problems to deal with. In the cargo bay, a dragon and a human sat in silence, both breathing hard, both feeling the echoes of a single shared note fade into memory. 3 weeks passed. Every evening after her regular work ended, Lily made her way to the deep cargo bay. And every evening, Vrachus was already there waiting. They didn't discuss it. They didn't make appointments. It just became what they did. Lily taught him breathing exercises that human singers used. Long, controlled breaths from the diaphragm. Short, sharp bursts for staccato notes. Vrachus's biology was different, but the principles worked. His vocal chambers began to remember their purpose. In return, Vrachus taught Lily about harmonic engineering. He showed her how the Drakkar used specific frequencies to strengthen molecular bonds in metal, how certain patterns could smooth stress fractures, how the right resonance could make weak structures strong. They discovered something remarkable. Lily's human voice range and Vrachus's deep Drakkar tones complemented each other perfectly. When they sang together, they created harmonics that neither could produce alone. The cargo bay rang with sounds that hadn't been heard since the Drakkar extinction, but not everyone was happy about it. Commander Grix stood in her office, staring at the latest engineering reports. The vibrations from the cargo bay were getting stronger, more frequent. They were causing minor disruptions in sensitive equipment across 3 decks. Nothing dangerous yet, but concerning. More concerning was the talk among the crew. People were nervous. Some were scared. Grix made her decision. She called a meeting with the senior staff and several concerned workers. Lily received a message to attend. The subject line simply read, "Regarding activities in Cargo Bay 7. Lily arrived to find 20 people already seated. The mood was tense. Commander Grix, a Talrine with silver-gray skin and calm eyes, gestured for Lily to sit. "Thank you for coming," Grix said. "We need to discuss the situation with Vrachus." "What situation?" Lily asked carefully. A mining supervisor spoke up. "The vibrations. They're disrupting our equipment. Last week we had to recalibrate 3 drilling arrays because of harmonic interference. The frequencies are making my team nervous," another worker added. "Vrachus has been quiet for 11 years. Now suddenly he's making the whole station shake? What if he loses control?" Lily felt her jaw tighten. "He's not losing control. He's practicing." "Practicing what exactly?" Grix asked. "Music, harmonic engineering. Things his people invented." The mining supervisor shook his head. "Look, I respect the cultural angle, but this is a working station. We can't have disruptions just because the Drakkar wants to relive the past." "He has as much right to his voice as you do," Lily said. Her tone sharp. "His voice can crack metal," someone muttered. "Only if he wants it to," Lily shot back. "Which he doesn't. We're being careful. We're monitoring everything." Grix raised a hand for silence. "No one is questioning Vrachus's rights. But we have to balance individual freedom with station safety and efficiency. The vibrations are a problem. So we're just supposed to tell him to stop?" Lily stood up. "Tell the last member of a dead civilization that he's not allowed to remember how his people spoke?" The room went quiet. Several workers looked uncomfortable. "It's not about cruelty," Grix said gently. "It's about finding a balance." "Then find a better balance," Lily said. "Because I'm not stopping. And neither is Vrachus." She walked out before anyone could respond. That night, Lily buried herself in research. She accessed every file the Galactic Cooperative had on Drakkar technology. She read about the singing spires of Drakkar Prime, structures that had generated atmosphere through harmonic resonance. She studied their acoustic engineering principles, their understanding of frequency and matter. An idea began to form. Outpost Tanis had been suffering power problems for months. The station's energy grid was old and inefficient. They had brownouts at least once a week. The engineering staff had tried everything, but the infrastructure was simply deteriorating. What if harmonic resonance could help? The Drakkar had used sound to strengthen structures, to improve energy flow, to make systems more efficient. If Lily and Vrachus could apply those principles to the station's power grid, they might solve the very problem people were complaining about. She brought the idea to Vrachus the next evening. "I know you're hesitant," she said, sitting cross-legged on the cargo bay floor. "Your songs are sacred. They're the last remnant of your people. Vrakas rumbled softly. His voice was getting clearer each day, though he still couldn't form actual words. Just sounds, notes, music. But songs are meant to be shared, Lily continued. That's how they survive. My grandmother taught me that. When you keep music locked away, it dies. When you share it, it lives forever. Vrakas was silent for a long moment. Then he began to hum, a low, deep note that made the floor vibrate. It was a sad song, Lily realized. A mourning song, she understood. He was grieving. Not just for his people, but for what he might lose if he shared their knowledge. Once it was out in the world, it wouldn't be purely Drakkar anymore. It would become something new, something mixed. Change doesn't mean destruction, Lily said softly. It means growth. Your people knew that. They joined the Galactic Cooperative. They taught other species. They built things together. Vrakas's humming shifted. The sad note resolved into something more complex. Not happy, but accepting. He looked at Lily with those ancient eyes and nodded slowly. The next day, Lily requested a meeting with Commander Grix. This time it was just the two of them. I have a proposal, Lily said. Let us try to fix the power grid. Using harmonic engineering, Grix's antenna twitched with skepticism. Explain. Lily laid out her research. The Drakkar principles, the potential applications, the possibility of stabilizing the station's energy flow without expensive repairs or equipment. If it works, Lily said, the vibrations won't be a problem anymore. There'll be a solution. Grix studied the data for a long time. Finally, she looked up. If this goes wrong, if there's any damage or danger, we stop immediately. Agreed. And Vrakas is willing? He is, Grix sighed. Then you have permission to try. But only in one section. Section 4, where the power problems are worst. If it works there, we'll discuss expanding. Lily smiled. Thank you, Commander. Don't thank me yet. This could still be a disaster. Over the next week, Lily and Vrakas prepared. They mapped the power conduits in Section 4. They calculated the frequencies needed to stabilize the energy flow. They practiced until they could produce the exact harmonic patterns required. Lily wrote everything down in musical notation, creating a fusion of human melody and Drakkar resonance. It was a new language, neither purely human nor purely Drakkar, something born from both. The night before the test, Vrakas sang a full melody for the first time. Not just notes, but a complete piece. It was a Drakkar working song, the kind his people sang while building their cities. Lily listened with tears in her eyes. The beauty of it was overwhelming. This was what the galaxy had lost. This depth of sound, this marriage of art and science. Tomorrow, she said when he finished, we show them what your people could do. Vrakas rumbled in agreement. For the first time since the extinction, he felt something other than grief when he thought of the Drakkar. He felt pride, and underneath that, something even more precious. He felt hope that maybe, just maybe, his people's voice wouldn't die with him after all. Section 4 of Outpost Tanis had seen better days. The lights flickered constantly. Equipment ran hot. Workers complained about power surges that corrupted their data. The engineering staff had bandaged the problems with temporary fixes, but everyone knew the infrastructure was dying. Now a crowd gathered in the section's central hub. Word had spread about the test. Some came out of curiosity. Others came to watch what they expected to be a failure. A few came because they genuinely hoped it would work. Commander Grix stood with her senior staff monitoring equipment clutched in their hands. Lily saw the doubt in their faces. She didn't blame them. What she and Vrakas were attempting sounded impossible. Using music to fix a power grid. Ridiculous. But the Drakkar had done impossible things for thousands of years. Lily took her position in the center of the hub. Vrakas moved to stand beside her, his massive bulk making the space feel small. People instinctively stepped back. Some looked afraid. Others just looked confused. Ready? Lily asked quietly. Vrakas hummed a soft note. Yes. Lily nodded to Commander Grix. Beginning now. She started with a simple melody, one she had written specifically for this moment. It was based on an old Earth lullaby her grandmother used to sing, but modified with Drakkar harmonic principles. The notes were calculated to resonate with the station's metal framework at precise frequencies. Her voice rose, clear and strong. The hub's acoustics carried it perfectly. People stopped talking. Even the skeptics fell silent, listening. Then Vracus joined her. His voice was deep and powerful, but controlled. He wove his harmonics around Lily's melody, supporting it, enhancing it, transforming it into something greater than the sum of its parts. The sound filled the hub, filled the section, filled the very bones of the station. The effect was immediate. The flickering lights steadied. Then they brightened. People gasped as equipment that had been struggling for months suddenly ran smoothly. Power readings on Grix's monitors jumped from 60% efficiency to 95%. But something else was happening too. Something Lily and Vracus hadn't expected. As they sang, holographic images began to form in the air. Faint at first, then growing clearer. They were Drakkar memory crystals, embedded in the station's structure decades ago when it was built. Vracus's voice was activating them. The images showed Drakkar workers constructing this very station. They showed the care and skill that went into every weld, every joint. They showed the builders singing while they worked, their voices making the metal stronger, more resilient, better. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the ghosts of a dead civilization appeared around them. Vracus saw his parents in the images. His mother was there, supervising the construction of this hub. His father was checking calculations. Both of them singing, always singing, their voices making the work beautiful. Tears fell from Vracus's eyes, but his voice didn't falter. If anything, it grew stronger. He sang for his parents. He sang for his people. He sang for everyone who couldn't sing anymore. The holographic images shifted, showing more memories. Drakkar children learning their first songs. Elders teaching harmonic engineering to apprentices. Cities that rang like instruments. Ships that flew on currents of pure sound. A civilization that had understood something profound about the universe. That everything, at its deepest level, was vibration. Lily felt her own tears falling. She adjusted her melody to support Vracus, to give him space to grieve and remember and celebrate all at once. This was what music was for. Not just fixing power grids, but healing broken hearts. When they finally finished, the hub was completely silent. The holographic images faded slowly like dreams at dawn. The lights remained bright and steady. The power readings held at 98% efficiency. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then a young worker, barely out of training, stepped forward. "Can you teach me?" she asked Vracus. "I want to learn how to do that." Vracus looked at her. She was a Kess, a species known for their mathematical minds but not their voices. Yet she stood there open and honest, asking to learn. He rumbled softly. The sound was warm. More workers came forward. A Talrine engineer, a human miner, a Frel technician who usually kept to himself. They all asked the same thing. "Teach us, show us. Let us help remember." Commander Grix approached Lily, her expression unreadable. "The power efficiency is holding. Section 4 is more stable than it's been in 2 years. "Yes, Commander. And those images, those were real memories?" "Drakkar memory crystals," Lily explained. "They store information in crystalline structures using harmonic encoding." Vracus's voice activated them. "There are probably more throughout the station." Grix was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "The Galactic Cooperative Science Council will want to study this." "I know. They'll want to take Vracus to their research facilities." "No." Lily's voice was firm. "He's not a specimen. He's a person, I agree. But they'll come anyway." Grix looked at Vracus, who was surrounded by eager workers asking questions he couldn't yet answer. "We need to be ready." 3 days later, the Science Council arrived. 5 representatives from different species, all carrying scanning equipment and recording devices. They tried to be respectful, but Lily could see the hunger in their eyes. They saw Vracus as a key to lost technology. The head researcher, a Talrine named Voss, got straight to the point. "We want to document everything you know about Drakkar engineering. With proper study, we could revolutionize acoustic technology across the cooperative." Vracus rumbled. The sound was not welcoming. "He's not interested," Lily translated, though she suspected everyone understood the tone. "This technology is too valuable to be kept by one individual," Voss pressed. "Think of the applications, the benefits to every species." "The technology isn't the point," Lily said. "The songs have to be learned, felt, shared between living beings. You can't just extract them and mass-produce them. That's not how it works. That's inefficient. That's respectful." Voss turned to Commander Grix. Surely you see the value here. The cooperative needs this knowledge. Grix crossed her arms. The cooperative needs to remember that knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. The Drakkar didn't just have technology. They had culture, philosophy, art. You can't separate them. So what do you suggest? Voss asked impatiently. Lily spoke up. A school. Here on Outpost Tanis, where people can come to learn harmonic engineering the right way. From Vrakas, through practice and patience and respect. That would take years. Good things usually do. Voss looked like he wanted to argue more, but Commander Grix cut him off. That's my decision. The station will support an academy. Students can apply through normal cooperative channels, but the teaching happens here, Vrakas's way, or it doesn't happen at all. The researchers weren't happy, but they couldn't argue with a station commander's authority. They left with promises to file official complaints. After they were gone, Lily asked Vrakas, "Are you okay with this?" Teaching. Vrakas was quiet for a long time. Then he began to hum. It was a Drakkar teaching song, one used when masters took on apprentices. He had learned it as a child, never expecting to use it himself. Now he would. Not to preserve his people exactly as they were, but to transform their knowledge into something new, something shared. That evening, Lily sat in the cargo bay with her grandmother's journal. She added a new entry, writing in careful script. Today I learned that the best way to honor the dead is not to keep their memory locked away like treasure. It's to share what they taught us, to let their voices live in new songs. Grandma, you would have loved Vrakas. He understands what you always tried to teach me, that music isn't about the notes. It's about the connection between the people singing them. She looked up to find Vrakas watching her. What? She asked. He hummed a gentle melody. It was a Drakkar song of friendship, of trust, of two voices that had found harmony in unexpected places. Lily smiled and hummed it back to him. Not perfectly. Her human voice couldn't quite capture all the nuances, but that was okay. They were teaching each other, creating something new. Outside, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, and inside Outpost Tanis, a dragon and a human prepared to share songs that might change the galaxy. News traveled fast in the Galactic Cooperative. Within 2 weeks, every major news service had run stories about the dragon who sang again, and the human who taught him. Within a month, stations and ships across dozens of systems began scanning their Drakkar-built structures for memory crystals. They found hundreds. A cargo ship discovered recordings of Drakkar trade songs in its hull. A research station found construction memories showing techniques lost for generations. A colony on the edge of known space uncovered an entire archive of Drakkar, philosophy embedded in their foundation. The galaxy was waking up to the realization that the Drakkar had left their entire history hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to sing it back to life. The Science Council returned to Outpost Tanis, this time with a different attitude. They wanted to establish the academy immediately. They offered funding, equipment, prestige. Lily was suspicious of the sudden generosity. They're trying to control the narrative, she told Vrakas. They want to say they preserved Drakkar culture, not that they initially tried to exploit it. Vrakas hummed thoughtfully. He had learned enough about galactic politics to understand what Lily meant. But he also recognized an opportunity. With proper funding, they could build something real, something lasting. He sang a note of agreement. They would accept the help, but on their terms. The bigger problem arrived 3 days later. A Science Council transport ship docked at the station. When the airlock opened, 12 researchers emerged, all carrying specialized equipment. But it was the woman leading them who made Lily's stomach drop. Dr. Nessa Webb, human, renowned acoustic physicist, and absolutely convinced that Drakkar technology could be mechanically reproduced. Commander Grix, Webb said, shaking hands with professional efficiency. Thank you for allowing us access. We've brought harmonic extractors, resonance duplicators, and full-spectrum analyzers. With these tools, we can decode and replicate the Drakkar acoustic techniques without requiring biological vocals. That's not the point, Lily said flatly. Webb turned to her. You must be Lily Strand. Your work has been impressive, but ultimately limited. With proper scientific methodology, we can take this beyond what any individual, human or Drakkar, could achieve. Vrakas rumbled. The sound rattled the airlock doors. Webb didn't even glance at him. Yes, I'm sure it's all very culturally significant. But culture doesn't power stations or build ships. Technology does. and technology can be measured, reproduced, and improved. You don't understand, Lily said, her voice tight with anger. The songs have to be learned. They have to be felt. You can't just extract them like data. Watch me. Webb gestured to her team. Set up in Cargo Bay 7. We'll start with baseline recordings and build from there. Commander Grix looked between them. Dr. Webb, I appreciate your expertise, but this station has already established procedures for handling Drakkar technology. You'll need to coordinate with Vrakas and Lily. I'm not here to coordinate. I'm here to conduct research. Webb's smile was polite but unyielding. The Science Council gave me full authority. Lily turned to Vrakas. We need to show them. Right now. Vrakas understood. He began moving toward the oldest section of the station. The part built almost 300 years ago by the first Drakkar construction teams. Lily followed. So did Grix, Webb, and half the research team. They reached a section that had been sealed off for decades. The structure was still sound, but it served no current purpose. Vrakas placed one massive claw on the wall and began to sing. It was a deep, resonant note that made the entire corridor vibrate. Slowly the walls began to glow, not with light exactly, but with something deeper. Crystalline structures within the metal itself started to activate. Impossible, Webb breathed, her instruments going wild. The harmonic signature is rewriting the molecular bonds. It's strengthening the structure at a quantum level. Vrakas changed his song. The corridor responded. Hidden panels slid open, revealing a chamber that hadn't been accessed in centuries. Inside, a massive crystal pulsed with soft blue light. An archive, Lily whispered. A big one. Vrakas sang again, but this time he couldn't complete the harmony alone. He looked at Lily. She understood. This archive required two voices. One Drakkar, one from a species with what the Drakkar called emotional resonance capacity. Humanity qualified because of their musical nature. Lily joined her voice to Vrakas's. Their harmonics intertwined, creating patterns that unlocked the crystal's deeper functions. The chamber filled with holographic light. A Drakkar elder appeared. His scales were marked with age, his eyes wise and sad. When he spoke, the archive translated his harmonic speech into multiple languages simultaneously. I am Corvus, last speaker of the High Council. If you are hearing this, then our people have gone to silence, and the youngest of us, Vrakas, has found what we hoped he would find. Voices willing to join his own. Everyone in the corridor froze. The recording was speaking directly to Vrakas by name. The elder continued. We knew extinction was coming. The radiation storm that would take our cluster was detected months before it arrived. We sent you away, Vrakas, not to survive alone, but to find those who would help our voices endure. We believed that somewhere in the galaxy, a singing species would emerge. We built our knowledge into every structure we touched, waiting for this moment. The hologram gestured and more images appeared. We left archives like this one on 89 worlds. Each contains our history, our philosophy, our understanding of the universe. But they cannot be accessed by machines or force. They require what we valued most, connection between living beings. Webb was frantically recording everything, but even she had stopped trying to interrupt. Vrakas, the elder said gently, your burden was always meant to be shared. Teach others our songs not as they were, but as they can become. Evolution is not just biology. It is also culture, music, memory. Our people end, but our song continues if you share it. That is how civilizations truly survive. The hologram began to fade. To the species who has joined Vrakas, we thank you. The Drakkar are gone, but perhaps our voices will live in yours. Perhaps our children, if any remain, will grow up knowing they are part of something larger than one people. Perhaps that is the best legacy we could leave. The archive crystal dimmed. The chamber fell silent. Dr. Webb was the first to speak. The crystal specifically mentioned that machines cannot access the knowledge. It requires biological vocals, emotional resonance, and willing cooperation. Yes, Lily said quietly. Webb looked at her instruments, then at Vrakas, then at the crystal. Her scientific certainty seemed to crack. I came here thinking I could improve on what you were doing. Make it more efficient, more reproducible. And now? Commander Grix asked. Now I think I was wrong. Webb ran a hand through her hair. You can't mechanize connection. You can't automate trust. The Drakkar understood something we've forgotten in our rush to optimize everything. She turned to Vrakas. I'd like to apply to your academy. As a student, not a researcher. If you'll have me. Vrakas was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to sing. It was a Drakkar welcome song, used when accepting new apprentices into a teaching circle. Webb smiled, tears in her eyes. I don't know what you're saying, but I think I understand. Over the next week, they explored all 89 archive locations. Each contained similar messages and techniques. Each required cooperation between Vracas and at least one other species to unlock fully. The Science Council issued a formal statement, acknowledging that Drakkar technology could not be replicated mechanically. They authorized full funding for the Academy and pledged support for Vracas' teaching method. Applications began arriving immediately. Hundreds of them. People from dozens of species wanted to learn, but it was the human applications that surprised everyone. There were thousands. Why so many humans? Commander Grix asked Lily. Lily thought about her grandmother, about the resource wars, about all the songs that had almost been lost. Because we understand what it means to almost lose everything. We know how important it is to preserve what makes us who we are. She looked at Vracas, who was reviewing applications with careful attention, and because we're not afraid to sing with strangers. That's our gift, I think. Not technology or strength, just the willingness to add our voices to someone else's song and see what happens. Vracas rumbled in agreement. In the months since Lily had first sung in the cargo bay, he had learned something profound. He wasn't the end of the Drakkar. He was the bridge between what they had been and what they could become. That night, Lily added another entry to her grandmother's journal. The elders of Vracas' people were wiser than they knew. They understood that no civilization truly dies as long as someone remembers their songs, and that the best way to be remembered is to teach others to sing with you. 5 years had changed everything. The Harmonic Academy occupied 3 full levels of Outpost Tanis now, with dedicated practice chambers, residential quarters, and archive access rooms. 500 students lived and studied there, representing 40 different species from across the Galactic Cooperative. The station that had once been just a mining outpost was now the center of a cultural revolution. Vracas stood at the viewing window of his office, watching student groups practice in the gardens below. Gardens that existed because of harmonic engineering, creating breathable atmosphere and sealed domes. The students were learning more than just technique. They were learning the Drakkar philosophy, that structure and song were the same thing, that building and music were one art. His vocal chambers were fully restored now. He could speak, though he chose his words carefully. 80 years of silence had taught him the value of meaningful sound. Lily entered without knocking. After 5 years, they had moved far beyond formality. The new graduates are ready for their ceremony. 50 this year, Vracas said, his voice a deep rumble that made the windows vibrate. More than all previous years combined. Word is spreading. Lily joined him at the window. We had applications from 7 new species this quarter, including the Kelvar, who don't even have vocal cords. They want to learn harmonic engineering through instrumentation. The Drakkar would approve. Vracas turned from the window. We never believed only our voices could create harmony. We believed all beings could find their song. They walked together to the Great Hall, where graduates and their families waited. The hall itself was a masterpiece designed by Vracas and built by students over 3 years. Every surface resonated at specific frequencies. When someone sang here, the building sang with them. The ceremony was simple. Each graduate demonstrated their understanding by performing a harmonic engineering task. Some strengthened metal beams through resonance. Others adjusted atmospheric controls using only their voices. A few, the most talented, created small memory crystals, encoding their own stories in mineral structures. Lily watched with pride as her students performed. She had become the chief instructor of human Drakkar fusion techniques, teaching people how to blend emotional expression with harmonic precision. It was a new discipline, neither purely human nor purely Drakkar, something born from both. After the ceremony, Vracas received a priority message from the Galactic Cooperative Deep Space Monitoring Network. He read it in silence, his expression unreadable. What is it? Lily asked. A discovery. On the edge of the galaxy. He showed her the message. A deep space probe found something. A Drakkar seed ship, Lily's breath caught. Are you sure? The probe identified Drakkar genetic markers. The ship is 500 years old, launched before the cooperative even existed. It contains genetic material. Eggs in stasis, waiting for the right conditions. Your species isn't extinct, Lily whispered, perhaps. Vracas sat down heavily. The eggs would need proper care, the right environment, knowledge of Drakkar biology that died with my people, but not the knowledge of how to raise them, not the songs, not the culture. Lily placed a hand on his forearm. That's here. That's what we've been building. Over the next weeks, the Science Council, the cooperative government, and the Academy administration held endless meetings. Everyone had opinions about what should be done with the seed chip. Some wanted it brought to a central research facility. Others wanted the eggs destroyed, afraid of what might happen if Drakkar returned to the galaxy. Vrakas listened to all of it with growing frustration. Finally, he made his position clear. The eggs will come here, to Outpost Tanis. If they hatch, they will be raised by this community, by all of us. That's a massive responsibility, Commander Grick said. She had been promoted to sector administrator, but still maintained close ties with the station, raising a new generation of Drakkar. Not just Drakkar, Vrakas corrected. Drakkar who grow up knowing they are part of the cooperative, who learn from many teachers, many species, who understand from birth that survival is not about isolation, but about harmony with others. And if they don't want that, someone asked, if they want to be pure Drakkar? There is no such thing as pure anything, Lily said firmly. Every species in the cooperative has changed through contact with others. That's not loss, that's growth. The debate continued for months, but eventually Vrakas's position won. The seed ship was brought to Outpost Tanis. The eggs, 23 of them, were placed in carefully controlled environments. Drakkar biology was complex, but the Academy students threw themselves into learning everything they could. Dr. Webb, now a senior instructor, led the biological research. The eggs will need specific harmonic frequencies to complete development. We'll need singers maintaining resonance around the clock for months. We have 500 students and 50 graduates within travel distance, Lily said. I think we can manage. They organized shifts. Students and graduates sang to the eggs day and night, providing the harmonic stimulation Drakkar biology required. It became a meditation practice, a way of welcoming the future while honoring the past. 6 months later, the first egg showed signs of hatching. Vrakas was there along with Lily and a full medical team. When the shell cracked and a tiny Drakkar emerged, no bigger than a human child, Vrakas wept openly. The hatchling's scales were soft and translucent. Her eyes were unfocused. But when she heard Vrakas's voice, she responded immediately with a high, pure note of her own. She's singing, Lily said, tears streaming down her face. Already singing. More eggs hatched over the following weeks. 21 survived. 2 didn't make it, despite everyone's best efforts. Vrakas mourned them according to Drakkar tradition, singing their short lives into memory crystals. The young Drakkar grew quickly. Within a year, they could speak. Within 2, they were learning basic harmonic engineering. They were different from ancient Drakkar in many ways. They had human teachers alongside Vrakas. They learned Talrine mathematics and Kes philosophy. They played with students from 40 species. They were Drakkar, but they were also something new. One evening, Lily found Vrakas in his office, watching the young Drakkar practice in the garden below. A human child and a Talrine adolescent were teaching them a new song, a fusion of 3 species' musical traditions. Are you okay? Lily asked. I am thinking, Vrakas said slowly, about what my people would say if they could see this. What do you think they would say? Vrakas was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to sing. It was a Drakkar song Lily had never heard before, a song about rivers that flowed into oceans, about individual drops becoming something larger than themselves. When he finished, he said, they would say this is exactly what they hoped for. Evolution is not just biology. It is also culture, music, memory. The Drakkar are gone, but our song continues. Changed, yes. Mixed with others, yes. But alive. A young Drakkar burst into the office, barely 3 years old, but already as tall as Lily. Teacher Vrakas. Teacher Lily! We made a memory crystal. Come see. They followed her to the practice chamber, where a group of young students, human and Drakkar and others, stood around a small crystal glowing with soft light. We all sang together, the young Drakkar explained excitedly. And the crystal remembers. Play it back! One of the human students touched the crystal. It projected a holographic recording of their practice session. But more than that, it captured the joy, The friendship, the absolute certainty these children had that different voices could create beautiful things together. Vracus looked at Lily. She looked back. No words were needed. This was what they had built. Not a museum of the past, but a living future. That night, Lily wrote the final entry in her grandmother's journal. You taught me that songs survive when we share them, that voices live when others learn to sing them. Vracus taught me that species survive not by staying separate, but by becoming part of something larger. Together, we taught a new generation that harmony is more than music. It's a way of being in the world. The stars remember every song, Grandma, and now there are new voices singing to them, old words in new mouths. Ancient melodies with fresh harmonies. The Drakkar are gone, but their song plays on, louder than ever, more beautiful than ever, because now it's not just one species singing, it's all of us, together. She closed the journal and looked out her window. Outpost Tanis hung in space, a small station orbiting a distant gas giant. But inside those metal walls, something remarkable was happening. Species from across the galaxy were learning to sing together, to build together, to become something greater than the sum of their parts. In the garden, young Drakkar voices blended with human and Talreen and Kess. They were learning a new song, one that had never existed before, one that could only exist because they were willing to share their voices. And in the vast darkness of space, the stars listened. They remembered every song, and they waited, patient and eternal, for the next harmony to reach them. The universe, after all, was itself a kind of music, and every voice, no matter how small or strange, had a part to play in its endless symphony.